James Mercer stood at the viewport, watching the massive council station grow larger as his shuttle approached. Stars glittered against the black void of space. His reflection in the glass showed a man in his 40s with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. His three-piece suit was dark blue, perfectly fitted to his lean frame. "First human to set foot on the Galactic Council station," said the pilot. "Nervous?" James adjusted his silver tie. No. The truth was simple. James Mercer had stopped feeling nervous years ago. 15 years in Earth's Special Forces and another 10 in high-risk diplomacy had burned that emotion out of him. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. James grabbed his small bag and nodded to the pilot. "Thank you for the ride." The airlock opened to reveal 3 aliens waiting for him. The one in the middle looked almost human except for its blue skin and 4 arms. The other 2 were different. One was insect-like with compound eyes, and the other resembled a furry lizard standing on 2 legs. "Ambassador Mercer," the blue alien said, bowing slightly. "I am Zorax, your guide. Welcome to the Galactic Council Station." The station was enormous inside. Thousands of aliens from dozens of species moved through the wide hallways. Some floated, others crawled. Many walked on 2 or more legs. James took it all in with calm eyes, processing everything. "The Council has granted humanity observer status," Zorax explained as they walked. "This is rare for a species that has just discovered faster than light travel. Many Council members were against it. Yet here I am," James said. "Yes, here you are." Zorax's 2 right hands twitched slightly. They reached a large chamber where 24 alien representatives sat in a semicircle. The room fell quiet as James entered. He could feel their stares, some curious, some hostile, some calculating. The leader, a tall being with silver skin, stood. "James Mercer of Earth. The Council acknowledges you as humanity's representative. You may observe our proceedings and speak when permitted." James bowed respectfully. "Earth is honored to join this gathering of distinguished species. We have much to learn from you all." As he straightened, he caught several council members exchanging quick glances. His training identified these as signals, the kind exchanged before an operation. James kept his face neutral, but his mind was now on high alert. The meeting lasted 3 hours. James said little, but watched everything. When it ended, Zorax showed him to his quarters, a spacious room with a bed, desk, and its own viewport looking out at the stars. "Rest well, Ambassador," Zorax said, leaving. James didn't rest. He carefully checked his room. Finding 2 hidden cameras, he left them alone. Better to know where the watchers were watching from. He unpacked, hung up his spare suits, and placed his diplomatic credentials on the desk. At exactly midnight, station time, the air vent in his ceiling made a soft click. James was already moving, rolling off the bed as a near-silent hiss filled the room. He held his breath and quickly pressed a button on his wristwatch. The emergency oxygen system activated, creating a bubble of safe air around him. The door to his room locked automatically. The terminal on his desk flashed a warning. "Atmospheric failure. Emergency systems engaged. Remain calm." James walked calmly to the terminal and overrode the lock using a code Earth intelligence had provided. The door slid open. He stepped into the hallway, straightened his tie, and took a deep breath of clean air. "So that's how we're playing it," he whispered to himself, his face showing no emotion. The game had begun, and James Mercer had been playing it for much longer than the Council knew. James Mercer spent his first week on the station watching and learning. He attended every Council meeting, speaking rarely but missing nothing. His trained eyes noticed how the Council members divided themselves into clear groups. The largest group, the Preservers, sat together on the left side of the chamber. They watched James with cold, suspicious eyes. Their leader, Admiral Cawthorn, was a tall being with gray skin that looked like stone. Whenever Earth was mentioned, Cawthorn's face hardened even more. Humans developed space travel too quickly. James overheard Cathorn saying to another member. They went from primitive rockets to faster-than-light travel in just 2 centuries. No species advances that fast naturally. The second group, the opportunists, tried to be friendly with James. They invited him to meals and asked many questions about Earth. Their leader was Marvox, a short green alien with 6 eyes and a wide smile. Earth has such wonderful resources, Marvox said during one dinner. Perhaps we could arrange some trade deals. But James saw how Marvox's eyes lit up when talking about Earth's rare minerals. These aliens didn't want friends. They wanted Earth's wealth. The smallest group, the progressives, seemed truly interested in welcoming humans to the galactic community. Led by Zovala, a tall being whose skin glowed with soft blue light, they argued that humanity deserved a chance. On his 8th day, James was walking back to his quarters when the floor panel beneath his foot made a small click. His combat instincts took over. He jumped back as the panel dropped away, revealing a deep shaft that would have sent him falling 30 levels down. The next morning, as James was eating breakfast in the station's main dining hall, his food scanner, disguised as a simple wristwatch, detected a powerful poison in his drink. He accidentally knocked the glass over and ordered a new one. That afternoon, Vextrol, the council's security chief, requested a private meeting. The insectoid alien towered over James, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected James's image like mirrors. Ambassador Mercer, Vextrol clicked, mandibles moving nervously. I must inform you that these accidents are not accidents. I'm shocked, James said, his face showing no surprise at all. Several council members have hired professional assassins, Vextrol continued. They believe humans are dangerous, a threat to the galactic order. I can assign security guards to protect you. James smiled slightly. That won't be necessary. But Ambassador, these are the best killers in the galaxy. The Shadow Collective, the Void Wraiths. Professionals who never fail. Never is a strong word, James said. He straightened his red tie and adjusted his cufflinks. I'd like detailed files on each council member, please. Vextrol's compound eyes widened. Files. You're being hunted, and you want paperwork. James stood up, smoothing his suit jacket. You misunderstand the situation, Chief Vextrol. His voice remained soft, but took on an edge that made the much larger alien step back instinctively. I'm not trapped here with assassins. He gestured around the station. They're trapped here with me. As Vextrol watched the human walk away, he noticed something he had missed before. Despite the perfectly tailored suit and diplomatic smile, James Mercer moved like a predator. The security chief felt a new emotion, one rare for his species. He felt pity for the assassins. The grand hall sparkled with light reflected from the crystal ceiling. The Galactic Council's annual diplomatic gala had drawn representatives from all 24 member species, each dressed in their finest ceremonial attire. James Mercer stood near the refreshment table, looking perfectly at ease in his black 3-piece suit. Your first council gala, Ambassador Mercer, said Prime Minister Thelos, the silver-skinned leader of the council. Are you enjoying yourself? Very much, James replied with a polite smile. The council certainly knows how to throw a party. As the Prime Minister moved away, James noticed 3 figures watching him from different corners of the room. They were Drakari, reptilian beings known for their speed and their poisoned claws. All 3 slowly began moving toward him, cutting off escape routes. James calmly picked up a glass of blue liquid and sipped it. His hand casually reached for a small skewer of alien fruits on the buffet table. The first Drakari approached from behind, claws extended. James spun, splashing the blue drink into the assassin's eyes. The creature hissed in pain as the acidic liquid burned. Before it could recover, James drove the fruit skewer precisely into a nerve cluster at the base of its skull. The Drakari dropped silently to the floor. The second assassin leaped forward. James grabbed a heavy serving plate and swung it like a disc, catching the Drakari across the throat. As the creature stumbled, James picked up a bottle of strong alcohol and smashed it against the reptilian's head. The third Drakari, seeing its companions fall, charged with open jaws. James sidestepped smoothly, grabbed a decorative cloth from the table, and used it to trap the creature's clawed hands. A quick, precise strike to the Drakari's chest stopped its heart. All three assassins lay on the floor. The entire fight had taken less than 15 seconds, and James hadn't even loosened his tie. Most of the guests hadn't even noticed what happened in the crowded room. Station security arrived quickly. Vex Troll pulled James aside while guards removed the bodies. 3 Drakari assassins, the security chief clicked. And you killed them with appetizers. I work with what's available, James said, straightening his cuffs. The next day, James was summoned before the full council. Prime Minister Thelos looked troubled. Ambassador Mercer, please explain the unfortunate incident at last night's gala. The council chamber fell silent as James stepped forward. His voice was calm but carried to every corner of the room. Where I come from, we have a saying. Don't start what you can't finish. Humanity spent its entire history fighting. First against nature, then against ourselves. While your ancestors were building paradise among the stars, mine were sharpening sticks to survive another day. James looked directly at the Drakari counselor, whose scales had paled noticeably. We're the species that thrived on a death world. We didn't evolve in paradise like most of you. We clawed our way up from the mud, fighting everything including ourselves. If certain council members wish to continue these diplomatic exchanges, they should understand what they're dealing with. The chamber remained silent as James returned to his seat. The next morning, news spread quickly. The Drakari counselor had fallen seriously ill. The official report listed food poisoning as the cause, but every council member understood the real message. The human diplomat had responded to their challenge, and he had done so with terrifying efficiency. James sat alone in the station's observation deck, watching distant stars through the massive window. The room was empty except for him. Most aliens avoided him now, after what happened at the gala. May I join you? Ambassador Mercer asked a soft voice. James turned to see Zavala, the leader of the progressive faction. Her skin glowed with gentle blue light, casting soft shadows across the floor. Please do, James said, gesturing to the seat across from him. Zavala sat gracefully. Unlike other council members, she looked directly into James's eyes without fear. My species, the luminary, values truth above all else, she said. So I will speak honestly with you. You are in far greater danger than you realize. I'm listening, James replied. The council is not what it appears to be, Zavala explained, her voice dropping to a whisper. For thousands of years, it has been secretly controlled by an ancient species called the Architects. They work from the shadows, manipulating galactic politics. James showed no surprise. And these architects are behind the attempts on my life. Zavala nodded. The architects have guided the development of most intelligent species in the galaxy, subtly controlling their evolution and technological progress. But humans developed without their influence. We're the variable they couldn't control, James said. Exactly. The architects can predict the behavior of most species with mathematical precision. But humans are unpredictable. You make choices that their models cannot anticipate. They've seen something in humanity's future that terrifies them, a potential where your species breaks their control over the galaxy. James smiled slightly. Manipulation and control. Sounds like politics back home. He adjusted his cufflinks, custom devices that could scramble surveillance systems. The small action wasn't lost on Zavala. You don't seem surprised by any of this, she observed. Earth intelligence suspected something like this when we first made contact, James admitted. Too many alien species with similar governmental structures, similar technological paths. It didn't feel natural. Zavala leaned forward, I can help you identify the Architect's agents within the Council. In return, I ask that when humanity takes its place in galactic affairs, you remember who stood with you. Why help me? James asked. Your species has been part of the Council for centuries. Zavala's glow pulsed briefly. Because the Luminari were among the first species the Architects controlled. We've lived as elegant puppets for too long. In humans, I see the chance for something new. True freedom for all species. James nodded and extended his hand, a human gesture of agreement. Zavala looked at it curiously, then placed her glowing palm against his. We have a deal, James said. Now tell me everything you know about these Architects. As Zavala spoke, James made mental notes. The pattern was becoming clear now, not just random assassination attempts, but a coordinated effort by an ancient power to eliminate a threat before it grew too strong. Earth needed to know what they were facing. Later that night, James sent an encrypted message to Earth Command. Situation more complex than anticipated. Have made contact with ally. Moving to identify primary hostile elements. The response came quickly. Understood. Proceed with caution. Remember your true mission. James looked at those last words for a long moment before deleting the message. His true mission had always been about much more than simple diplomacy. They're watching your every move, Zavala warned as she and James walked through the station's botanical garden. The colorful alien plants provided good cover for their conversation. The Architects have eyes everywhere. Good, James said. Let's give them something to see. That afternoon, James sent an obviously encrypted message from his terminal. Anyone monitoring his communications would detect it, despite it being hidden beneath layers of security. The message mentioned a secret meeting with representatives from 3 other species who might support humanity. The trap is set, James told Zavala later. Now we wait. 2 days later, James entered an unused storage area on the station's lower level. He checked his watch and then placed a small device on the floor, a holographic projector that created a perfect image of him sitting at a table, appearing to wait for someone. The real James climbed into the ventilation system above the room and settled in to wait. He didn't wait long. 6 armed mercenaries slipped into the room through different entrances. They were a mix of species, all wearing black armor with no markings. The leader, a tall gray alien with 4 arms, signaled for them to surround the hologram. On my mark, the leader whispered. Remember, we need confirmation of the kill for payment. The mercenaries raised their weapons. James pressed a button on his watch. The doors to the room slammed shut and locked. The hologram vanished. The lights went out, replaced by dim red emergency lighting. The mercenaries spun around, suddenly aware they were trapped. What is this? The leader hissed. James's voice came through the room's speakers. This is what we call a hostile negotiation on Earth. Gas began pouring from the vents. 5 of the mercenaries collapsed almost immediately. The leader, made of sturdier stuff, fired wildly into the ceiling. James dropped down from the vent behind him, moving silently despite his formal suit. One precise strike to the back of the alien's head, and the leader joined his team on the floor. When the mercenaries woke up, they were bound securely. 5 were still in the room. The leader found himself alone with James in a different room. Your friends are free to go, James said calmly, straightening his green tie. You, however, have a message to deliver. The leader glared at him. I deliver nothing for you, human. James smiled slightly. Oh, but you will. He placed a small device on the table. This contains evidence of who hired you, along with a message. This is your only warning. And if I refuse, then I'll have to deliver the message myself, James said. And trust me, you don't want that. Your employers wouldn't survive the delivery. The next day, the council meeting was unusually tense. 3 council members who had been openly hostile to humanity suddenly spoke in favor of increasing human involvement in galactic affairs. James sat quietly in his observer seat, perfectly dressed in a fresh 3-piece suit. He made notes on a small pad as if nothing unusual had happened. No one mentioned the disappearance of 6 elite mercenaries from the station, or why certain council members seemed nervous and pale. After the meeting, James received an encrypted message from Earth Command. Phase 1 complete. Proceed to Phase 2. James deleted the message and smiled. Phase 2 would be when the real game began. The assassination attempts grew more desperate. James dodged a laser trap in the elevator. He avoided a shapeshifter who tried to replace his food server. Each time, he survived with calm efficiency that frightened the station's residents even more than the attacks themselves. Then came the quantum eraser attack. James was walking to a meeting when reality itself seemed to warp around him. The air shimmered, and the atoms in his body began to vibrate painfully. It was a quantum-based weapon designed to erase a target from existence itself, technology far beyond what Earth possessed. James pressed a small button on his belt buckle. A personal shield, technology borrowed from Zavala's people, formed around him just in time. The quantum wave dissipated, leaving him untouched but very angry. It was time to change the game. That afternoon, James burst into the council chamber unannounced. The guards moved to stop him, but something in his eyes made them step back. "This emergency session is closed to observers," Prime Minister Thelos said, rising from his seat. "I'm not here to observe," James replied. His voice was quiet but carried to every corner of the room. "I'm here to reveal the truth." He activated a device from his pocket. The chamber's main display screen lit up, showing complex patterns and ancient symbols. Several council members gasped. "These are communication patterns from what you call the architects," James explained. "My government has been intercepting them for months. We know they've been manipulating this council, and all of you, for centuries." Shocked whispers filled the room. James continued, his voice steady. "Earth has encountered the architects before. Long ago, when humans were just beginning to build civilizations, the architects visited our world. They tried to control us as they controlled so many other species." James looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each council member. "Our ancestors called them gods. They built temples for them, sacrificed to them. But humans have always been difficult to control. Eventually, we drove them away. They designated Earth as a quarantine world, too dangerous to approach. They hoped we would destroy ourselves." The council chamber was silent now. Even the most hostile members were listening with rapt attention. "But we survived. We evolved. And now we've reached the stars, something the architects never expected. They fear us because we represent something they've never encountered in thousands of years of manipulation. True unpredictability." Zavala stood from her seat. "What Ambassador Mercer says is true. My people have ancient records that confirm this. The architects have been guiding our development, limiting our potential, keeping us dependent on their secret guidance." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Arguments broke out between factions. Security guards looked unsure who to protect or arrest. In the confusion, James slipped away. He had one more meeting, the most important one yet. In a small office deep in the station's administrative section, a minor clerk watched James enter and closed the door behind him. The clerk's form shimmered and changed, growing taller, thinner, until it resembled a being made of silver light. "Human," the architect said, its voice like distant bells. "You have disrupted plans thousands of years in the making." "That's what we do best," James replied, straightening his tie. "Now let's talk about the future." Alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor. James ran back toward the council chamber, dodging panicking aliens in the hallways. "What's happening?" he asked, grabbing Zavala as she rushed out of the chamber. "The architects," she said, her glow pulsing with fear. "They've activated sleeper agents throughout the station. Security systems are turning against us. Doors are locking. Life support is failing in some sections." A massive explosion shook the station. In the distance, They heard screams. "They're trying to eliminate everyone who knows the truth," James said. He touched his watch, sending a pre-prepared signal. "But I expected this." James pulled Zavala into a service corridor as armed figures in black uniforms rushed past the main hallway. "Who are they?" Zavala whispered. "The Architect's elite forces. They've been hiding among the station staff for years." James checked his watch again. "My countermeasures should be active in 3, 2, 1. The lights flickered, then stabilized. A new alarm sounded, different from the first. "What did you do?" Zavala asked. "I infected the station's systems with a virus days ago. It just activated, giving me partial control." James smiled slightly. "Earth may be new to the galactic stage, but we're very good at certain types of warfare." They made their way to a security center. Inside, screens showed chaos throughout the station. The Architect's forces were attacking council members and their staffs. "We need to reach the central communications hub," James said. "I can broadcast the truth to the entire galactic community from there." Getting to the hub wouldn't be easy. 3 corridors away, they encountered their first squad of the Architect's soldiers, 6 armed aliens of different species, all moving with the same eerie coordination. "Stay behind me," James told Zavala. The soldiers opened fire. James moved with impossible speed for a human, dodging energy blasts as he closed the distance. His hands became weapons, striking pressure points, breaking limbs, disabling opponents with surgical precision. Zavala watched in amazement as one human in a 3-piece suit systematically dismantled 6 armed soldiers in less than 30 seconds. James didn't even breathe hard when he finished. "How?" she began. "Special Forces training," James said, adjusting his cuffs, "plus some enhancements Earth doesn't advertise." As they continued through the station, James's watch beeped. He answered it while disabling a security gate. "Ambassador Mercer," came a nervous voice. "This is Counselor Vrex. We're trapped in Chamber B7 with hostile forces outside. We need help." "I'll send assistance shortly," James replied calmly, as if he were scheduling a meeting rather than fighting in a war zone. "Hold your position." Zavala stared at him. "You're negotiating trade agreements while fighting." "Your species calls this a crisis," James explained as he rewired the gate controls. "Mine calls this Tuesday. Humans are very good at multitasking under pressure." The gate opened, revealing 4 more soldiers. James sighed and straightened his tie. "Wait here," he told Zavala. What followed was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. James used the environment itself as a weapon, redirecting enemy fire, using maintenance tools as improvised weapons, and turning the station's own systems against the attackers. When it was over, Zavala finally understood why the Architects feared humanity. James didn't just react to threats. He anticipated them. He didn't just fight. He controlled the battlefield itself. "How much farther to the communications hub?" James asked, as if they'd just taken a pleasant walk. Zavala pointed silently down the corridor, seeing the human diplomat in a completely new light. The communications hub was heavily guarded. 12 elite soldiers stood outside, weapons ready. James and Zavala watched from a maintenance shaft above. "We need a distraction," Zavala whispered. James nodded. "I have just the thing." He pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. Far away, an explosion rocked the station. Half the guards ran toward the sound. "Now we just need to deal with 6 guards," James said. "Still too many," Zavala replied. James smiled slightly. "Not for me." What followed was swift and decisive. James dropped from the ceiling, landing between the guards. Before they could react, 3 were unconscious. The others fired their weapons, but James moved like water between the energy blasts. In seconds, all 6 guards lay on the floor. "Let's go," he said, straightening his tie. The communications room was empty except for one figure, the Architect James had met earlier, now in its true form. It glowed with silver light, its body thin and tall like a stretched human. You cannot stop what has begun, the architect said, its voice echoing strangely. This station has served us for thousands of years. James stepped forward. What do you mean? The architect waved its hand. The wall behind it became transparent, revealing an enormous chamber. Inside was a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with energy. The Galactic Council station itself is our creation, the architect said. At its heart is a quantum intelligence that has guided every decision, every policy for millennia. Your species was never meant to discover this. Zavala gasped. So the Council has never been truly independent. Independence leads to chaos, the architect replied. We created order. James looked at the crystal structure. You created control. There's a difference. The architect moved closer to James. Its form shifted, becoming more human-like. We can offer humanity a special place in our design, it said. Your species has qualities we can use. Join us in maintaining the stability we have engineered for the galaxy. James seemed to consider this. He adjusted his pocket square, a small decoration in his suit jacket. Stability through control is just slavery with good marketing, he said calmly. The architect's glow intensified. Then you leave us no choice. This station will self-destruct in minutes, destroying all evidence of our existence. The rest of the Council species will continue under our guidance. I don't think so, James replied. He pulled out his pocket square, revealing it was actually a small device. This is a quantum destabilizer. Earth developed it after studying fragments of your technology left on our planet ages ago. Fear showed on the architect's face, the first real emotion it had displayed. You destroy everything. Billions rely on the order we created. James shook his head. Not destroy. Free. He activated the device. The crystal structure in the chamber began to pulse erratically. Alarms sounded throughout the station. What have you done? The architect demanded. I've given the galaxy a choice, James said. True independence instead of comfortable control. Humanity will help the galaxy transition to self-determination. The architect's form became unstable, flickering like a bad transmission. You cannot. The pattern must. Control is necessary. No, James said firmly. It's not. That's what you never understood about humans. We thrive in chaos. We find strength in freedom. And now, so will everyone else. The architect vanished with a flash of light as the station shuddered around them. The station shook violently. Lights flickered as systems reset themselves. In the central council chamber, confused representatives gathered, trying to understand what was happening. James and Zavala entered the chamber. James's suit finally showed signs of damage. Torn at the shoulder, stained with various colors of alien blood, askew. But he walked with the same calm confidence as always. What have you done, human? Demanded Admiral Thorne, leader of the Preservers. I freed the Council, James replied. For thousands of years, you've all been puppets of the architects. Their quantum intelligence has been guiding your decisions, limiting your potential, keeping you dependent. He gestured to the large screens around the chamber, which now displayed the massive crystal core, its light fading as James's device neutralized its influence. The architects offered me a deal, James continued. Humanity would be granted special status if we helped maintain their control over all of you. I declined. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some council members looked afraid, others angry, a few relieved. Without the architect's guidance, the galaxy will fall into chaos, shouted Marvox of the opportunists. Without their control, you'll finally have true freedom, James corrected. He stepped to the center of the chamber. The station will stabilize soon. The core systems will continue functioning, but without external control. You'll make your own decisions now, for better or worse. Prime Minister Thelos approached James slowly. What happens now? Ambassador Mercer. James straightened his damaged tie one last time. Now we build something new. Humanity doesn't want to rule or control. We've done enough of that to ourselves to know it's a dead end. He looked around the chamber. What we offer is something the architects never could. The chance for every species to write their own destiny. The chamber fell silent as the council members considered his words. I propose a new galactic compact, James said, not built on control, but on mutual respect and true independence. Earth will share its technology and knowledge freely. In return, we ask only for the right to find our own path among the stars. Slowly, Zavala stepped forward. The luminaries support this proposal. One by one, other representatives joined her. Even some former enemies nodded their agreement. The tide was turning. As the council began debating the details of this new arrangement, James slipped away to a private room. He activated his secure communicator. Earth Command, this is Mercer. Phase 2 complete. The Architect's control has been neutralized. The galaxy is ready for us, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals. Well done, Ambassador, came the reply. Return to Earth for debriefing. Soon, James said. There's still work to do here. He ended the transmission and looked out at the stars through a viewport. Somewhere far away, in the darkness between galaxies, he knew the architects were retreating to their hidden realm. For the first time in thousands of years, they faced something they could not predict or control. A galaxy where humans roamed free. James smiled as he watched a new day dawn across the stars. The human diplomat had completed his mission. Now the real work, the real diplomacy, could begin.